Edo State government don hold 2 days leadership retreat wey shele for John Udige Oyegun Public Service Academy for Benin City. Dis retreat wey get di theme Expanding the Frontiers, Succeeding Together na avenue for different ministries, departments and agencies of government to reflect for their journey for the last 6 months of 2022 and cause the plans for the future to make life better for Edo people. Governor Godwin Obaseki wey tok say Naija pipo don tire for the people wey dey represent dem, come tok say dis retreat na to chook mouth for where dem plan say Edo go be and where Edo dey now. E come say advise the commissioners make dem get scorecards wey go help dem track the development of their various ministries.
All of you, I am sure, are watching developments in the country very, very closely, particularly the evolving political developments. One thing is becoming clear. Nigerians are now getting fed up with government and the people who represent them in government. And you can see that in their reactions on social media and where passions and emotions are headed. So, for us as government, and representatives of our people, I believe we will be hurting ourselves a lot if we fail to ignore these changes that are occurring and believe that things are still the same. That we've seen it before, where the ones are here. Government is for government and the people in government. We will all be shocked as we begin to see. I think democracy is maturing and people are now beginning to realize that they demand a lot more from the people in government and the people who have responsibility to manage their resources, their collective resources. And thanks God to technology, thank God to what's happening in the rest of the world, they are going to demand. People are going to go out and vote their interests. Let's not kid ourselves. No political party today can, thumb their chest and say, next elections, we will have clear victory. Because people are watching. The only reason why people will leave their homes to come and vote is because there's a reason for them to. It's either they are voting against something or they are voting for something. If they have not benefited, they are not likely to come out there to even show interest. So we're shifting from that worldview where it was all about talk, about hype, about creating a myth, and then try to go and justify it in the polls by doing all sorts of magical things. It is not possible again. People will ask, what have you done for us lately? That what you promised us, you did not deliver. Our road has not been done. Look at floods, how it's ravaging us, and you want us to vote for you? You think we are fools? That's how people are going to react. And nobody will be spared. So the politician gets kicked out of office if they feel that he hasn't performed. The new group of people will come in. They will not spare the civil servants either. They will put pressure on them. We are fortunate in Edo that we have laid out a roadmap. We saw this coming and we anticipated it. But the challenge we're having is we're having a lag effect. Many people still don't believe and are not pulling their weight as they should. They still think that we have time, that things will happen the way they've always done. But I want to let you know that for those who key in and understand what we're doing, that they will be amazed as to the benefits at the end of the day. This retreat, we're looking at where we say we will be by half of this year and where we actually are and what we need to do to deliver what we say we'll deliver this year. That is, each person is supposed to have developed a scorecard. Each agency is supposed to have developed a scorecard and key performance indicators that are measurable, not just what you said. So we're looking at it from the top, and I am concerned. Because first, the revenues we say we're going to earn for the first half of this year. We haven't quite earned it. Meanwhile, the expenditures continue to run. That means that if we don't do something about it, before the year runs out, we'll run out of money. So I can't promise that I'll be able to keep government this size by the end of the year, because we have to cut back to meet with our reality.
Obaseki yarn say no dey happy at all. Say government say they spend money on waste and government go cut off a lot of the wastage to provide ogbonge services for Edo people.
We need to continue to prioritize. I still see a lot of waste. Everybody wants to be an agency. Everybody wants to be an MD, doing something somebody else is doing. And people don't want to talk to each other to see how they can be more efficient. The people in roads, for instance, have come up, oh, we have 3 agencies in roads. Why? So one of the things we're going to have to do is, if we're not earning as much as we can, even if we're earning what we said we would, we should also be learning to save, cut back on our waste, so that we can have more available to provide services to the people. The key is the people. If we don't provide services for them, they now have the instrumentality to act. I'm telling you this because I've seen it in Edo, I've seen it in Osun, and I'm hearing it happen in the country. If you think we're it's a joke, you will see in February. But I don't want it to affect us here. This essentially is supposed to help us focus. Government cannot do everything within a time frame. However, we are supposed to have prioritized actions. And every day we come to work, every month, to say, this is what I'm supposed to have achieved, and this is what I actually achieved, and this is the gap. So it's not enough to say, I didn't have the people, I didn't have the staff. You knew 4 months ago that you didn't. So that would have been a priority to say, I must get the people first, otherwise I'll not be able to do what I'm supposed to, the work that's been laid out for me. So if you don't have your staff 3 months after, you can't blame anybody. It's like there must have been something wrong about your leadership. So we want to just say, what are the priorities? What are the things that we ought to have? And it can't be your priorities, it's the priorities we agreed up front.
Obaseki talk say government no go fit continue to run Edo State from revenues when they come from Abuja. E con still talk say this administration don't put body for tourism to help government generate revenue for Edo State. E con still chook mouth for the tech park when go accommodate 5,000 to 10,000 people, and the goal for the next 5 years na to produce between 4,000 to 8,000 software engineers.
Looking forward, we're not going to be able to finance the states or based on oil revenues from Abuja going into the future. We have to be looking for alternative economies from where we can earn revenues to drive our state. And we've identified a few key ones. One happens to be tourism. And what's driving tourism? There's a tourism master plan that some of you are working on. I participated in a workshop with you. And there are some anchors to that. So we're building around a culture, we're creating a culture district. We're focusing on ecotourism and what's, expanding our parks. But all of this has to be layered on some infrastructure. When people come, they need somewhere to stay. We've had to improvise this venue for this retreat. It's not ideal. I mean, we're supposed to have venues in the city where you can go in and just have a retreat because it's purpose-built for that. So our tourism strategy is going to be built on now for us to begin to build some tourism infrastructure. The best hotel today is Protea, now Marriott down the line. They don't even have a conferencing facility. They don't have a banqueting facility. And so you can see, the challenge we have and the limitations we have. Government is not supposed to build all of that. So we have Mr. Trevor Ward, who's here, who's working with us on, building, I think, a 4-star hotel that will have, that will be, a respectable hotel that, can, at least as a starting point, be able to help us host events and also quite a lot more people in Edo State. And then later in the day, hope he's here, there's the managing director of Decagon, who we're partnering with on the Edo Tech Park. As you know, they have graduated their 3rd cohort. I think they have graduated about 300 now, young people, young stars, all of them are employed. They are working with all sorts of companies all over the world. Some of them have had to travel, but many of them are still resident here. But we're working on building a tech park that will house up to 5,000 to 10,000 people. And we should be able to, our goal is that within the next 5 years, we should be able to produce between, say, 4,000 and 8,000 technology engineers, people do coding, animation, all the things you need to do. Just imagine you have 3,000, 5,000 people earning $50,000, $100,000 a year, the kind of money that brings into the state, and all the ancillary businesses that will follow that. So for us, looking forward, it's about technology, it's about tourism, it's about industrialization, building new industries. But all of those will not happen if government does not work. All of those will not happen if the attitudes in government is still about the people in government. Do you get it? What I see is that people in government are in government for themselves, for government, not for the people. So we're not able to support new businesses, new areas of growth to the extent that we should. But like I said, it didn't start today. It's been a 40-year process, which we're trying to reverse. But unfortunately, we don't have that much time. It's like we just woke up and 2 generations are now backed up behind us and knocking the door to say, we need jobs, we need a better life, our children are growing. Look, we cannot continue like this. That's the pressure you are seeing in society. And we, as government, unfortunately, have no choice but to begin to expand and open up those opportunities.
Deputy Governor of Edo State, Right Honorable Comrade Philip Shaibu, when Head of Service for Edo State, Anthony Okungbawa represent, talk say this kind of retreats get the ability to do check and constantly touchlight the journey so far to constantly create correct plan to make better life for Edo people.
For the few who may not be comfortable with your style, they cannot but agree with the majority of our people that as an innovative and inspirational pilot, you have been steering the ship of Edo State steadily and smoothly in actualizing the collective dreams of our founding fathers and this administration's vision of making Edo great again. The theme of this leadership retreat, expanding frontiers, succeeding together, quote and unquote, is very apt, and I fervently believe that Edo State will be better for it. As a state and a forward-looking government, this retreat has the capacity to re-energize us as state actors and representatives of our people to take stock and reflect on the journey so far, crystallize ideas, and chart a way forward for the good of our state and benefit of our people. Mr. Governor, sir, I must commend you for your visionary leadership and say kudos to you for finding us worthy to be members of your formidable team.
For the day 2 of the retreat, Governor Obaseki, commissioners, and heads of government agencies come do talk for education matter based on school resumption and school monitoring.
I visited Asuru junior and senior secondary schools, and I met both principal. The principal for the junior secondary school is Mrs. Agbon Khese, and the students were actually at the assembly when I got there, and they were rendering the Edo State anthem. She told me that,
Sorry, the junior and secondary have the same assembly?
no, different. Different, sir. I'm talking about the junior now, sir. So she told me that the enrollment as at yesterday for JS1 were 15 students, and a total of 363 students attended school yesterday. So all the teachers were
Junior or senior?
Junior.
Junior.
Junior. All the teachers were seen at the assembly ground. Then I also met the principal of the Asoro Senior Secondary School, Mrs. E.E. Edeke, and she confirmed that the SS1 enrollment as at yesterday, she had 85 students, and all the teachers were on ground to commence teaching. And finally, on the infrastructure, the buildings are intact, but the chairs were dilapidated. The entrance to the school is very, very bad. And because of the absence of perimeter fence, I saw the principal of the senior secondary school actually chasing some boys, trying to chase some boys out of the compound. So that's the situation I made there, sir.
Super excited that the conversation has gone the way it has. I went to FSP and I was supremely excited. Just talking about Adopt a School, I already have an arrangement with Mrs. Amadesun, the head teacher, and I volunteered because I went to the class just to observe, and I heard a teacher saying Z for zebra. If you grew up in Benin, it was Z in other schools. So to hear Z, to hear K, to hear R instead of A for apple, because it's the R sound, I was just excited. You know, the students seem free. I'm very thankful that we no longer flog them. They didn't, you know, they were able to express themselves. And I actually offered to Mrs. Amadesun that I will come here from time to time just to support you. It's close to my house, it's walking distance, and let's see what we can do. So I'm very excited in terms of where this conversation is going. Thank you, Your Excellency, and HC Education for all the good work, and of course, Chairman Subeb. Well done.
New era, senior secondary and junior secondary. They are very excited. As at yesterday, both the junior secondary and senior secondary have moved into the new block, the new facilities. They were excited. All the students were in their classes. Teachers were around after the assembly. They had this challenge that with the facility that can compare to anyone in the world, their toilet facilities were not running, and that was a concern because they have a borehole. The borehole is not running, and so they wanted that done. Their message is that they want to show and appreciate government by their hard work and what they will turn up with. The teachers in the senior secondary school, 17, they were all around. The junior secondary, they had 16. They were in the classes. Teaching and learning started yesterday in the senior secondary. In the junior, they were waiting for schedule to take off in their tab. While I was there, the learning and development officer called him, and before the end of today, the learning and instruction on their tab in the junior secondary will start running. The facility and all the environment was conducive. However, I met a situation that the commissioner will address. As at 8 a.m., those who used the Afibov pitch for practice were still in section. And the principal has reported that severally has told them that cannot happen. And she was threatened. I went and I met them, and that today will be the last day. Whoever gave them the permission, she will revisit it, not when school was in section. Another challenge was that the perimeter fence of that school is not on, and so students come in. Even while I was still there almost at 9 a.m., students were coming and they said they don't have any means and that there's no mechanism for checking that.
I went to His Excellency's former school, Abuja Grammar School. At the time I got there, and by the time I left at 8:20, the principal was not there.
It's a private school, isn't it?
It's now a missionary school, so run by the African Communion.
Yeah, but still give a report so we understand.
Because it's the school now.
Why people are saying we should hand over schools?
So I noticed the principal was not there, and there's also a female school there, and I noticed that both the male and female students had the same assembly. Both senior and junior had the same assembly, and by the time the assembly was over, I went to the junior secondary school. They don't have a principal there, and it appears the senior secondary school principal runs both the junior and senior. The place was overgrown with weeds. I noticed that even by the time I left around 8:30, there was little or no idea on what to do. You know, there was a state of total confusion and immediate suspension. Nothing was actually happening. I went to the lab. You didn't have anything to tell you that this was either a physics or a chemistry lab. And the teacher there, I asked him, why would you allow students to stand throughout a physics class? Because there was no lab stool or anything. What I saw is not something that represents what we are driving. I mean, the trend we are driving.
Went to a private, because I also wanted to check why I decided to look. I felt, since people are also going to particular places, why are they going there? And how do we make it robust? Because the students are not just the students in our own school, state schools, but the students in Edo State, as it were. And because also we've also in our work experienced that there are a lot of people who open schools more for a business, while those that are doing it for education. So I went to the two schools, Word of Faith and Nata Academy. They are together because a lot of people, you find them in the morning, they are going in that direction. The access road is appalling, is very bad, but people are there. And there are a lot of them also. They had so many classes, especially in Word of Faith. There are a lot of students in there. At the time I got there, which was 10 minutes to 8, most of the classes, they had already settled them down into the morning. While we had some people that we knew had come in to do registration. So I was able to enter about 3 classes, and in 2 of them, they had started them on the new term program. While Word of Faith is doing British curriculum, Nata Academy is doing American. So they're offering 2 different options to the students, and everything looked quite orderly. And maybe because it's a long standing school that has been there for a long time. So I thought, okay, we needed to do some bit of balancing to look at that side and see what we're doing, and then try and cross-transfer so that we can also encourage people, whether you're in the school, government establishment or you're in private, you're getting the same value and quality.
I visited Ewari Grammar School down Gapiona Avenue. When I got there, the principal and all the teachers
Is it a junior school or a senior school?
The junior school. They said there's GS 1 to 3 was in that building, but the primary school, which fits the new basic system, the primary school was outside the compound in another street. I spoke with the principal, went into the classrooms, went around. There's adequate furnishing in the classrooms. But the school is not, there's no security at the school, which they complained about. There's also no water. And I was told about the deal they had with Heartland, with their neighbor actually using part of the school for their yard, and that they've refused to do part of their agreement in terms of providing some renovation and water for them. That
Minister of Roads, Commissioner of Roads, are you there?
So Heartland needs to be talked to actually fulfill part of the arrangement while they're using part of the school. The teachers were there, and then the admissions really not taking place right now, but they explained that as most of the students were actually house boys or house girls or wards within that area. So there are only 2 arms of GS2 working and 1 arm of GS3. There's nobody has come into GS1 yet.
I just want to quickly say that we are quite grateful for the feedback we are getting. On the issue of the discrepancy between what the school heads are reporting and the actuals, I think this is something that came up that we are aware of. And this is one of the reasons why we said we proposed the state government that this articulation needs to happen, because we discovered that quite a number of our primary schools are being underutilized. And so by the time we convert primary school to basic, we're going to then put these facilities to optimum use. But the ongoing school census is also going to help us to even further validate the numbers of learners that we have in our system.
Just listening to you, I think something hit me, and it's a decision we need to make. Whether as a government we should now declare like a Marshall Plan and agree to look for a certain amount of money, either from our budgets, from our citizens, to invest massively in education over the next 5 years. I mean, because if we don't, and if we continue like this and make like education an adjunct, because we're doing roads, right? But we're not doing schools. We are likely to have, looks like we're going to have a crisis. So I really believe that it's something that we should raise a very red flag on. So instead of having C4 for roads, I want to take that money and put it into schools. Let us create, rebuild the schools. It's so important. These children will build roads. I think it's so critical. I don't know why I feel this way. That look, let's stop everything and focus on these schools. Do you get it? Let's put the infrastructure. Let's, fortunately, the feedback we're getting, at least we still have people who are there, willing to train these children. It's just to upgrade their skills and motivate them more. So let's see how we can make the investments and not behave like we behaved in the past, as if education doesn't matter.
The Ogbonge people went under for this 2-day retreat. Now Governor Godwin Obaseki, Head of Service Anthony Okungbawa, Commissioners, and Oga Patapata for different government agencies for Edo State. Omo Aluke Ajakaye, TMC TV News. Don't forget to your PVC and be your power. No sell am give any politician on election day.